they don't see us, do they?
No, I don't think they see you. I think they will see me and my screen because I'm sharing my screen.
Good.
Yeah, I don't believe they'll see you. Canvas. Yeah. All right. So here we are. Back from session 1. If you were with us from session 1, we looked at very basic Canvas stuffs, how to get to it, which obviously we talked about already, widener.edu or canvas.widener.edu, or make a little bookmark here in your toolbar for yourself. That's always a great thing. And we looked at how to make your profile and set up your picture. We also talked about some things that can go inside of your profile, such as contact information, where you're located, office hours, that kind of stuff. I wasn't going to touch on any of that today, but I certainly wanted to give you an opportunity to just kind of bring that to the front of your brain. And if you had any questions on any of that stuff before we move to anything new that we might hear today. Does anybody have anything?
What's my badges stand for?
Your badges is kind of a gamification aspect, which allows you to make your way through Canvas about learning the Canvas tools and the different processes that occur. So it's just a reward system for training purposes.
Is it meritorious?
I don't believe so, but I'm sure just like you put down for professional development for things like that, that's certainly part of professional development.
I was kidding.
Yeah.
No money.
Maybe you could get Pam to make a CEU for it or something.
Can we get vests like the Boy Scouts and put our badges on them?
Yeah, there you go. We'll make you a nice sash. How about that?
I like it.
All right, I'll have to go back and address my sewing teacher from 7th grade, Miss Hilscher, and get up on my sash skills before I promise anything like that. All right. So let's jump into new stuff today. I kind of wanted to go much more towards course development and looking up how to set up classes and some of the steps that go into that. So today I have us just looking at the settings of a course, how to name it, different kinds of navigation, how to move things in and out of navigation, things like that. I have us looking at how to change content on a page and some of the tools that can be embedded on a page, whether that's a YouTube video or a Zoom link or a link to some kind of external outsource, some of the other tools that can be used inside of Canvas. And then I also, as far as we got yesterday, which I probably plan on cutting it off today just for continuity aspects. I'm not going to go much further than we did yesterday because then I have to kind of brush back when we do Canvas 3. Just kind of basic setting up the weights in your course. So this is worth 30%, this is worth 20%, and that allows you to kind of build the assignments and the modules because obviously we'll have our online community, I would think, using the modules a lot more than those of us that teach more face-to-face. Face-to-face and online, everyone's going to use the grade book. So looking up how to set up those category weights, I thought would be very important for us today, something that that is of interest to everyone. So we'll look at that a little bit today. And obviously, if you have any other questions or we're going through something and something pops in your brain, please don't hesitate to stop and speak in. And we can always get off track a little bit and come right back. That's perfectly fine. We'll go wherever your brain might want to go. All right. So let's get back to our dashboard. I'm just over on the left-hand side in Canvas, which is kind of your toolbar. And you'll notice that your dashboard kind of looks like a speedometer gauge, right? You look at the speedometer in your car, that's the dashboard in your car. I guess kind of the same thing Canvas is going for. So your dashboard is just where your classes sleep. And we did look at in the first session how to modify what shows on your dashboard. So certainly if you have lots of clinical sections or you're a course coordinator and you don't need all that stuff in front of you at one time, you can always click on your courses here, your book menu, and go down to all courses whoop, at your bottom and modify your stars here on the left-hand side. That will change what you see on the dashboard. So right now I don't have anything started in my menu. So by default, everything shows up in my dashboard. If I just wanted to only see this allied health course, sometimes these stars don't react right. Why that is, see how it's like jumping, but it's not actually clicking. There we go.
Andrew,
Right.
my dashboard looks different than yours.
What does your dashboard look like?
I don't know. It has the 1821, then my account with my mugshot. Then it says dashboard, courses, calendar, inbox, comments, help.
Oh, I think if you go up to your three dots
Okay.
across from dashboard, you're probably in recent activity instead of card view. And recent activity just shows you what happened recently in class instead of this kind of layout of everything in front of you.
No, it does say card view, but
You are on card view?
yeah.
Oh, that's odd. Can you let me stop my share and can you share yours? I want to see what yours looks like.
Okay. Okay, card view. Let me share mine. You see it?
Yes, I do see it. You do have the card view because I see the nursing 480 and the intro
Yeah.
to nursing 125.
This is different though.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Our left-hand side is still the same. I just don't have the words. So my symbols are there. I still have a place where my face is. I have the speedometer. I have the book. I have the calendar. I just don't have the words underneath.
Okay, got
And
it.
that's just because of the size of my screen.
Got it.
Yeah, that's just the browser I'm using. That's just the default view that Canvas does. It says, oh, your screen's a little bit tinier, so what can I get rid of? I'll get rid of the text in between these symbols so that
Yeah, when you're
everything's
saying
on your
book,
page.
I was looking for the word book and I didn't
Yeah.
see. I wasn't looking for a book. There you go.
All right,
Never
so yeah,
mind.
I was using the symbol term instead of the actual
it.
word underneath.
No
Andrew,
problem.
All right, let me go back to my share. Go ahead, Kim.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Are the future courses going to be in here? So for
Yes, summer and fall should be in ideally within the next 2 weeks, I would think, because you have students registering next week. So they do exist in the system. Someone literally just has to push the button so that colleague and cruisers start talking on those parameters. So we haven't had a Canvas meeting because of scheduling and weather, but there is one scheduled for next week. So I hope to have a better understanding of when that content will be available for you guys, because I know that if you're going to do summer or especially fall stuff, you'd be eager to get into that environment. All right. So let me go back to my share here. It's a beautiful thing where we can share multiple screens, so we can kind of troubleshoot if we have some problems. So that's a great thing. So here for the rest of our time today, I kind of just want you to choose a class to go into. Either choose a fall course that you know is going to be running again in fall, or choose a spring course that you know is going to be running again in spring. Work in an environment that, you know, the time that we spend today, our next 45 minutes, is of useful time to you. It's not something that's just being wasted. So I'm just going to go into my freshman seminar section from this last semester. And you'll notice that when you click on, I'm sorry, was everyone able to get into a page?
Yeah.
Got into a class? All right, good. When you click on a class, you get this default, what we're calling a blueprint, which is essentially a template that is pushed out to the entire university of how our classes are displayed. After our kind of initial launch here, I'm certainly going to be looking for input as to what we like about this blueprint and what we don't like, because we will have the opportunity to make our own nursing blueprint instead of using the entire thing from the university. If we like what the whole university is using, that's great. But if we find that we use certain tools more, or we like a certain look better, we're going to be looking for input on that. And certainly as we move down the road, that's something that will be available to us. So here in a class, you have very basic information on the page, right? You have the generic naming system of what our colleague system puts out there of your class. Then you have a just strict welcome message, and we have just a blank name of class, which obviously you would put your name of class in. And then underneath you have three very important parameters that used to sleep on the public welcome page in Campus Cruiser. And that information used to be fed from colleague to Campus Cruiser automatically. That is something that Cruiser built specifically for Widener because we wanted that information to be there for students. And students have become very used to finding that information there at the beginning of the semester. Where's the class held? What time do I have to be there? And certainly in those first couple weeks, as they're getting used to their schedule, they go back there for that reminder as well. Where do I have to be on Tuesday? And then what part of campus do I have to be at an hour and a half later? So that information is very important to them. And I think something that in this case, as an instructor, we have to actually put in. So it's not something that can be fed from colleague. Canvas, we talked about it, does not have anything that would allow us to do that. So us as instructors here, we just need to pull this stuff from our web advisor schedule, that schedule that we get at the beginning of the semester that tells us where our classes are anyway. So as you're getting your class prepared, coming in and putting in, obviously the term is everybody the same. It's either fall, spring, or summer, and then the year. Your time and location is obviously the most important part here. From when to when are you meeting and in what location is that? I would encourage you to use the full building name. We get very used to just calling things what we see them as because we're on campus all the time and we use abbreviations and we say, oh, it's in ACN. Some students don't know what ACN is. So actually using the full name of the building and, the way that they would be able to find, or if they were to ask someone else on campus, hey, where can I find this? They recognize that name as well. So I think that's important to have that there. And then, of course, your credits by default, it's most of us are at 3, but we do have some of those 1 credits and certainly some of those 4 credits. So that's something that needs to be put in manually. So how do you do all this? You literally just hit the edit button here. I'm just hitting the edit button on my screen, and I get an HTML box just like I used to get on Campus Cruiser. This is a blank box that you can type anything you want in. When I'm ready to put freshman seminar or freshman 101, I just put my cursor there and type. Okay, it's not really anything special. You obviously can put anything you want. And there is a save at the bottom of this. So even though you're putting it, if you exit the page, you need to make sure that you hit this update button. Now, this came up last time, and I'm going to try to clear the air because it says update syllabus. Obviously, this isn't your, as you and I call it, your syllabus with your objectives, university policy, technology policy, that thing that goes out in the beginning of the class. That's not this. That is just what Canvas calls this page. And we're using the syllabus page as our home page because it gave us this window to do anything in. If we used one of these other tabs that you see on the left-hand side here, for example, the home tab didn't give us an HTML window in Canvas. And we said, we want this window so that we can put in our welcome to message, our time, our term, our credits. We want that our students to have that information. And the only way to do that was to make the home page the syllabus page. So that's why it kind of has that syllabus name. It's really confusing. And if you notice, it is down here in gray. So students don't see the word syllabus on their navigation menu. They see the word home. And when they click on home, it takes them to the syllabus page that we're on right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Question for you.
Yeah.
I don't have any of my courses, of course, in here. I did make a Foundations of Faith Community Nursing course, but because I made it, I'm not getting this page, this welcome to.
Right.
Is there a way for me to import it, or the only way you get that is if it's put in by the registrar or whatever the case may be?
Well, the way for you to import it would be for us to grab it from one of the other courses, or because this is just an HTML window, you can always just come down and copy all of this and just do copy on your mouse and
Okay.
paste it in another class. Because we're just grabbing images and text here the same way you would grab images and text in Word and PowerPoint. This window allows you to do that same thing, so you can copy and
Got it.
paste from there as well. All right,
It will
so go ahead.
It will even give me the picture.
Yes, it will even give you the picture. Yeah. So the picture actually brings us to a good point. That brings us to some of the things that you can do inside of this window that we have here. You see all the tools up top, right? Our normal tools of bold, italic, underline, the formatting tools, the same tools we have in Word, right? And then you have some of the external things underneath. You can create a table inside of here. You can insert media, whether that's a video or an audio clip. You can obviously create links. You can put in a picture. This has a great math equation tool. Obviously, math equations are really hard to write on Word sometimes because of the formatting. They have a good math equation tool in here. You can insert a YouTube video right away. You can link to your OneDrive for your shared files that we have on our cloud. We have more external tools, and look at that drop list of things that can be embedded in this window. You can grab a video right from Khan Academy. You can grab something right from a Dropbox file that you have, a great TED video that you want the students to watch. So instead of putting that link inside of there and having them click on the link and going to a whole nother window, we're taking that content and embedding it right inside of our front page. So they don't have to leave the tool to watch their TED video. And they don't have to go anywhere to check out that Twitter feed on, the mental health chat that's going on tonight. That stuff sleeps right inside of the learning environment, right inside of this window. So another great tool here is this little guy here on the right-hand side, and that's your accessibility checker. So I know that accessibility is really big on campus. We've talked about that a little bit in our faculty meetings. And of course, those of you that are on some of the university committees, you hear that a lot more than us. But there is a big push for accessibility. I do plan on having some kind of face-to-face / Zoom session where we can look at how to check Word documents for accessibility, PowerPoint for accessibility, and some other tools that are out there that can help us, in this kind of venture we're going down here of making sure things are accessible. So if you click on this guy, it just puts a pop-up window on the left-hand side to show you what is going on with your page here. So look at my first issue. I have 6 issues here on my page. So what this is telling me is that the alternative text for my picture right now is 22313176035, yada, yada, yada. So if someone were to hover their mouse over this picture, that's what they would see. And if they were using a screen reader because they had a hard time seeing, instead of them telling them what this picture is, the screen reader is going to say 22313766035_.jpg. And the user has no idea what this is. So as an accessibility modification for here, instead of it reading all these numbers.jpg, this is a picture of Old Main. So I'm literally just saying Old Main on Widener's campus. You can put in another caption, but it's just looking for something appropriate that captures the image. Now, obviously, this image isn't that big and not a make or break situation for accessibility on our page. But if you're using an image inside of a PowerPoint inside of your instruction, and that image is a particular part of the body, or that image is a particular medication that's being used, or it's looking at a label off of a medication bottle, something like that, having that alternative text. So when someone scrolls their mouse over top or when a screen reader is used, allows that user to be able to know what that image is if they aren't able to see it clearly. So like I said, we'll spend a lot more time on accessibility in a different session, but I wanted you to know that as you're going through and kind of developing your front page here and putting some of that stuff in, that's something to keep in mind. Hit that accessibility checker. It'll tell you if you have a couple issues. Some of them, for example, the next one tells me that I don't have a header on my table, and that's because this text right here where it says click the edit button is technically in a table. Now, it's saying that because obviously if I was looking at a table of data and I'm looking at students and grades, I want to know that my column A is students and my column B is grades because I'm looking at a table of data. But here you're not looking at a table of data. You're just looking at text. So that table doesn't necessarily need a header. So there'll be things that you need to fix and other things that just aren't pertinent, but it's going to check everything for you when you do use that accessibility checker. Does anybody have any questions on that? Or any of the other tools that you see inside of your HTML window there? And you'll see I call it an HTML window because you're using HTML computer jargon to tell the computer what to put here. So I apologize if you don't know what HTML is, but that's just a fancy way of saying a window you can write in. It's an HTML window. So I apologize if that term is doesn't mean anything, but that's what I'm referring to.
Can I ask you a quick question, Andrew?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Please do, because I'm talking too much.
No, you're good. I remember that one of the good things about Canvas was that we could do video.
Yeah.
And I see on there that there's that little video clip thing under the tools. Is that where we would be able to do a video, like an introduction to the course?
That is a place where you can capture live video right in that sense, and it drops in there. That is not something that I have spent a lot of time on, and certainly something that I need to become more versed in before I'm able to hand out advice and speak to. But that is what that tool is. I believe they use a big blue button or one of those other services to just kind of embed it in. And that's something that comes with the Canvas subscription. So that shouldn't be us creating any other accounts or anything like that. That's just it using your camera on your computer and recording right there, right then.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andrew?
Yeah, go ahead.
On my course page, when I click on the accessibility issue, it gave me a lot of issues, but it didn't tell me about that I didn't have a caption under the picture. That wasn't one of my problems. How come?
So that wasn't number one?
No, so number one is about a heading. Number two is about the small text. 3 is a small text and contrast. Tables should have captions, at least a header, no more than 120 characters, content.
How many were there? One of 5? One of
8. I had eight issues, but not one of them asked me to name that picture.
Well, that's certainly something. I can tell you that every time that I've done it, the first thing that I've gotten is the picture. That's why I knew to talk about it right away. I would assume that everyone should get the same results there no matter what. But I will certainly make a note of that because we shouldn't be relying on that tool if person A is getting different results than person B. So we certainly need to make sure that that is something that's working correctly.
Yeah, no, I even clicked on the picture and it's not one of my issues.
All right.
Andrew, I had 8, so it was definitely.
You had 8 as well?
Is that the limit maybe?
Yeah, I don't think so. And I could be off because this is a class that I've worked in before and I've hit the accessibility checker. So when mine came up 1 of 6, it's possible that yesterday when I was working with the first group, I solved the first 2. So that's why I only got 6 on this page. But that's something that I will certainly make a note of. And like I said, this is the same thing with you. It's the same thing with me. This is a brand new system. This is something that, I consider myself to be pretty well versed in, but nowhere near an expert in my terms. So it's stuff that I need to learn better so that I can speak better to you all about, and make sure that obviously the tools we're relying on, like the accessibility checker and the video caption, like Sue was just talking about, are things that are useful for us instead of, nuisances, I guess you would, for lack of a better term.
So Andrew, I was able to copy and paste that stuff into the course that I created, but
Good.
the home page is that one that's blank. I have to actually click on syllabus to get to that welcome page.
Correct.
Not like the ones that you like already made up. When you open them up, the home page is that syllabus page. So there's
You're right.
probably something in there I'd have to do to.
Yeah, because when we put in the blueprint for this, we told the system that syllabus and home are the same.
Yeah.
And when you are using your own class, that hasn't been told to that environment. Syllabus
Yeah.
and home are two separate, rooms per se.
Right. I'll
Yeah.
just wait till they establish my class and
Okay.
do it that way.
I also wanted to show you, not only do you have all these tools on the top of this HTML window, but anything that is inside of Canvas can also be dropped right inside of this window. So if you're explaining something and you want them to look at a particular document or file, you can pull right from your course files right here on the right-hand side. If you want a link to an assignment or a quiz, or maybe a quiz review that you have somewhere in Canvas, you can type out what you want the students to do and then drop that link right underneath. So all that stuff sleeps over here in the left-hand side. I can click on files and get it, but you can also put the file right here as well. So for your syllabus, I think that would be a good use, right? We're going to put our syllabus inside of files, but really we're on the syllabus page in Cruiser. So instead of it just being term, time, credits, you could also add your syllabus term here, go to your files and grab your syllabus, and then that link to the syllabus will be right there on your front page. And it's not, oh, go find it in shared files, or, oh, I sent it to you at the beginning of the class. It's always right there on that front page, same place they would find their time and location. We can put that link right there on the front page. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, I'm just going to hit update syllabus there. And that's essentially editing that front homepage. Obviously, I would encourage you to put whatever you want. I wouldn't make it too cluttered because that's the first thing the students see. I think a very cluttered environment would be an overwhelming environment. Don't list everything you're going to do in the class right on the front page. Day one, they get in there and they see all this stuff. That could be a very overwhelming thing. But it certainly is a place where you can put pertinent information, syllabus, time and location, maybe a brief description of the class or the objectives, the 6 or 7 objectives throughout the semester. Those could be on the front page, things like that. But I wouldn't put too much on the front there.
Is this what they see, Andrew, when they go on, or is this different?
This is what they see when the class is published. So you'll see over here your course status.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm unpublished. So when I hit publish, this is what they'll see. And if you ever have that question, you can click here on student view, and it literally changes your window and gives you, hey, this is what the student's seeing down here at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll see that certainly ours as the instructor, it has a lot more on it than the student.
Mm-hmm.
The students only see the terms that are over here in blue. You and I have another 10 terms underneath here that aren't even in this menu.
Got it.
All right. And that's going to bring me to our next point. We're going to look at how to change that menu, right? Because maybe some of us want the discussion term in the menu. You can still get to the discussions by going to the modules because a discussion is part of a module, But if you want them to be able to go right to the discussion board, we can put that link over there. You want them to be able to go right to the assignment list, we can put that link over there. So let's look at how we can do that. I'm going to leave my student view. And I'm just going to go down to the bottom here. Every class has a settings at your bottom page here. And the front of your settings, very basic, class name, where you find it, your time zone. None of that stuff needs to be edited. All that stuff is fed in from Colleague. And obviously, I wouldn't encourage you to change anything there. The only thing that you might want to edit, what might be a start or end date, if you like to make your things available to students before the semester starts, you give them a week or two to go in prior to kind of get some introduction stuff done or get starting on work or chapter 1. I know in my online informatics, I put everything up in the first week of August. And if they want to use August to make their way through class so that they don't have to do them as much in the beginning, that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to come in here and adjust my start date so it's not necessarily the start of the semester, so that in August, when the students log in, they're able to see my class on their dashboard. Otherwise, that class won't show up until that start date comes up, which is probably the beginning of the semester by default. So that's something to keep in mind if you'd like to give students that option every once in a while. Also, I think over here you have a lot of good stuff. Obviously, we just looked at the student view, but course statistics is the same thing as your course tracker in Campus Cruiser, seeing where students click, how much time they spent there, what they did really fast, what they didn't do very fast at all. So all of that stuff there. Oh, I promise I went into the assessment. It wasn't there. I logged in. I was in there for 5 minutes. No, I'm sorry, Taisha. You did not log in. You were not there for 5 minutes. Here's the printout. So you have all that information there within your course statistics. Taisha's been a problem, so she's at the top of mine, you know. And then obviously you have other stuff over there. The course calendar, which you can get to the calendar on the left-hand side. That's just another way to get to it. And if you're importing, exporting, all that stuff we can kind of look through down the road. Certainly the import, export we'll cover a little bit closer, because as you're working in this fall or spring, you're going to want to put it in a new environment. So we'll have to look at how to do that import, export. But I've been doing that with Cruiser for a lot of people, and I certainly don't mind helping with that in Canvas as well. So certainly as you're working through, hey, I need this course to move over, or hey, can you help me with this? Same thing with Cruiser. I'm in the back end of all the nursing courses. I can go in and look at anything. I can go in and adjust things that you need adjusted if, you know, you're on the fly and, you know, you can't be by a computer and you need the assessment changed, the start date changed, something like that. I can go in and do all of that, thankfully. So that's certainly helpful for you as well. Keep that in the back of your mind. So here I am on course detail. You have sections, which obviously if you teach and you have maybe your Harrisburg and Chester campuses, classes combined, you'll see that listed there. The only thing you'll see under sections are the courses that are combined. So if you're a course coordinator, you're not going to see all of your sections in that list. This is just what sections sleep in the same environment. So really for us, that's just when we take a Chester class and a Harrisburg class, that 01 and 026 and put it together. You'll see 01, 026, and it'll tell you how many users you have in each section there.
So just so I understand, Andrew, can I interrupt you?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Right now, I see them as separate sections, and in Cruiser, it's a merged course. So moving forward, are they going to be able to merge those two sections together, or do I have to do this twice?
No.
Okay.
We can merge any sections together that you want merged together.
Thank you.
Yes. And thankfully, that's a much easier process than what it was in Cruiser. We used to have to submit a ticket to Linda Taylor's office down in ITS. And then we would get a message that they were merged. And if you put something in, then everything was gone and yada, yada, yada. This is a lot easier. I can literally go in and say, I want this section to be with this section, hit a button, and they're in the same place. And that's something that I can do. We no longer have to ask someone else to do that. So that should save time, certainly in the beginning of the semester, especially for those people that like to get a real early jump on things. And we wait for these things to be together and we're waiting for someone else to do their job. We should be able to speed that process along a little bit faster in the system because I'll be able to do that for you. Okay, so here we are in navigation. This is where I wanted to go. This is the menu that you and the students see on the left-hand side. By default, each class sees home, attendance, grades, announcements, modules, files, people, collaborations, chat, Office 365, Zoom. That's what they see. These can be moved up and down by just holding and dragging. If you use Zoom a whole lot and you want to make sure the students see it right away, put it up at the top of the list. If you never use it and you don't want them to see it at all, you can always just take Zoom and drag it down here to the stuff that's not in the list. And now Zoom isn't even there because I'm tired of my freshman seminar classes asking me about Zoom when we never Zoom. So I'm just going to take it out of the list. So you can leave it in, take it out. Same thing with the assignments down here. Like I said, Canvas works very much in a module format. So in module 1, you read this article, you respond to this discussion, you take this quiz. So me as a student, I can click on modules and see those 3 items that are listed in module 1. Or if as an instructor, I want them to be able to go into the quizzes or go into the assignments without going into modules, I can take those items and move them up to this list. Okay, where would that be helpful? In my mind, the most helpful place for that would be our faculty that are teaching more face-to-face. Because in class, you don't necessarily talk about us completing module 1. You work on a weekly basis, and these are your 4 assignments, these are your 5 discussions, these are your 4 quizzes. So that term module isn't necessarily used a whole lot in face-to-face instruction as much as it would be inside of a asynchronous environment or a completely online environment. So for our face-to-face people, maybe you want them to just go to quizzes and assignments. So you move that stuff up to the list. It's all on preference. I love the idea of modules. I love the idea of knowing what I need to complete in module 1, and these are the 4 things that need to be done. And when I click in modules, those 4 things appear in order. And I know I got this one done, this thing done, and as you get it done, Canvas puts a nice blue check by it, and I know it's done. It's a beautiful thing. If you don't want that in your class, that's fine. If you just want students to come up and say, you know what, I have an assignment due, I'm going to click on assignments and submit my assignment. And you know what, this week I know I have a quiz, I'm going to click on quizzes and I'm going to complete the quiz. That's fine too. So know that that is your preference, but by default, we have modules in each class. If you want those assignments, quizzes, or even your discussions to be up in this main bar, you need to come in here in settings and your navigation tab and just hit save. And that will change the way your class appears. And it's not something that needs to be done right off the bat. Maybe you don't want to introduce the discussions until midway through the semester, and then you move discussions into the menu. So that's something that can be modified at any time. Students are getting really confused because you can find quizzes in quizzes and find them in modules. Oh my God, where do I go? It's not really that confusing. It's the same thing. It's just both in the same place. So if it's confusing to them, take one of them out. Take the quizzes out and just leave the word modules there. Or if they're fine with it, leave them both there. So that is certainly your preference. You can do the same thing in Cruiser. It's just in Cruiser, we get every single tool by default. Here, we tried not to give you everything by default. We gave you what we thought you would absolutely need. And then if you have a preference for other things, you can always go in and modify those things in your own course.
Andrew, is discussions, that's like our message board?
Yes, discussions is message board.
So what's chat?
Chat is a live chat. So if you told people to join you online, maybe not in Zoom, or yesterday we talked about maybe you have cooperative groups working in your class and you want them to reflect on an article, and group 1 puts their reflection in chat and group 2 is all the way on the other side of the room. So instead of walking around or them being extremely loud and sharing that, they can put their response in chat. So it's an open chat window for the class is what it is.
Andrew, I don't see anything that's similar to our journals. Is there anything there like that?
I can't think of anything because our journals inside of Cruiser are an anonymous or just professor to student
Yes.
collaboration. So
Yes.
I don't know if maybe in this collaborations, that might be a place where we can work that in. Because I see that it's for grouped papers and note taking. So maybe you can set up a collaboration between you and the student. But that's another, along with the accessibility checker that I will put down in my notes, what's something that is similar to our journal function where we can have one-on-one conversation with the students. And I will certainly look into that further.
Okay, thanks.
In the CNS program, that is a half of the clinical grade. Andrew.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
literally do reflective journals every week.
Yes, I know that. And I know that Paula Gray and they use journals out the waz for when they send their papers back. That's where they do all of their back and forth between edits and stuff like that. So that's certainly something that I'll have to look further into. And obviously, there's got to be something in here that we can use to that extent, even if it means, setting up a discussion where the discussion is only between you and the student. I know that there's a way to limit what posts people can see. So that's something that we can certainly look further into, and I hope that we have a better answer next time we talk about this stuff for sure.
Wouldn't that just be in assignments? They'd load up their journals in assignments?
You could do that if the journal was a submitted piece of material. But in Cruiser, the journal is just kind of an open typing space. You're never really they can submit something and open something, but essentially it's that blank HTML window where it's kind of like a blog reflection. You can type about what you did that day or your experiences, and then someone can respond back to you. So we'll definitely have to see how we can kind of duplicate that scenario inside of this environment.
And they can also add any type of electronic materials such as articles or...
Right, they can just upload right in that window.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd be interested, I think that'll be one of the things that I become better versed on here is our collaboration tool. Maybe that's what we can use that for. But again, I am learning along with you inside of this environment. So I apologize. I don't have all the answers right now, but I certainly intend on trying to get them for you and finding ways, that we can use this to the best of our ability. There are going to be changes. There will be adjustments because thankfully not everything's like Cruiser. That's the reason we went here. So there might be, we might have to use a tool a little bit differently, or we might have to change the way we respond, to some assignments or some things that we do throughout the semester. And that comes with any change. But we will find a better way to do those things. No problem with that. I just wanted to make a note here of the collaboration with the journal function. And Sue talked about the video inside of the HTML window. All right. So we looked at the settings of the course, how to edit and that front page in the accessibility checker and some of the tools and things like that. We just covered the navigation and how our page looks to our students. And I know that it's a little hard to tell, but what the student sees is in blue and what they don't see is in gray at the bottom. So the color contrast isn't very good. We know this, but those are two different colors. They are seeing two different things there. So the only other thing I wanted to look at today was kind of the structure of modules and how to set up the weights of your class, right? When we say discussions are worth 30%, quizzes are worth 20%, the finals worth 10%. You know, that's the meat of our course. And when we set up things in Canvas, when we set up a new assignment or we set up a new quiz, it looks for that category that we create. The same way we did in Cruiser, you create the category for the weight of the grade. So every time you create a new assignment, it says, hey, this assignment, what category is it in? Is it in the assignment category? Is it in the quiz category? Is it in the discussion category? How do you want this to appear in your grade book? And how much emphasis does it have on that final grade? If there's 5 discussions and you told me that discussions are worth 20%, the gradebook's going to know that each discussion is worth 4%, right? It's going to do that division for you. That's the beauty of setting up the gradebook the right way in the front end. So you're not scrambling at the end because some reason these scores are off. So we take the time in the front end to do that. So here, I'm just sitting in the module format, and I kind of touch on this throughout. When you look at modules, right, you have what needs to be completed inside of a module. And you'll notice that your class, by default, has Module 1, Sample of Best Practices to Consider. This is an example of what a module can be. So it starts with a presentation, then there's a group discussion, then there's an assignment, then there's a quiz, then there's a wrap-up, okay? Obviously, not all your modules are going to have all those components. Maybe they have 1 or 2 of those components. Maybe they don't have any of those components because your module is just to read a couple articles on a topic and to answer a discussion board. So this is just an example. And you can always click on the right-hand dots of these and just remove them. Or you can just hit edit and make them your own and title them what you want for your class. So that's up to you. If you want to start with what's already here, or if you say, you know what, this is confusing as all heck, I don't want this, I want to start blank. Okay, great. Go in and delete it. And then you can just start with a blank slate. But that's just there by default to show you what it can be. And then obviously this is where you would have what these things are worth. The presentation isn't worth anything. That's a PowerPoint. That's what the student sees. But obviously my discussion is worth something, right? I participate in the discussion. I get credit for it. My assignment's worth something. I completed the assignment. I get credit for it. My quiz is worth something. I did good on my quiz. I should get credit for it. Now, obviously, we know that some things aren't part of the grade. So you don't always need to make something have a category. So just because it is an assignment doesn't mean it needs to be part of the 30% assignment category. It can just be an assignment that's there, just something that you want them to complete. So it doesn't necessarily need to go in the grade book the same way we did it in Cruiser. Those things didn't always necessarily needed to go in the grade book. Especially for those of you who do, I know, Kim, you do draft papers a lot. You have them submit multiple drafts. You don't need draft 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the grade book. Probably the only thing in there is the fact that they submitted a final paper and the drafts were part of the final grade. So you don't need all that stuff in there. So obviously we have those instances as well. Not everything needs to go in there. And then you have, by default, this is in every class, and there's no way to get rid of this. This is part of the blueprint, and it will be in every course, the Widener University resources and policies. We thought that was a great opportunity for students to have that content in front of them, to never give this, well, I didn't know that, or, well, I've never seen that. Well, it is in every single class. And guess what? Your instructor can't get rid of it. So no matter what, it is always going to be there. I think that's important to point out to the students so that they know where they can go to find some of those things. These are not things that we pull out of thin air. I know we have problems with policy every semester when it comes, to grades and people moving on. It's a high stakes program. So they need to be aware of those things. And that's why we put those things at the bottom. And certainly as we move down the road, I think our nursing template will have more specific our nursing policies, not just our university policies, but I think some of our nursing stuff can go there as well for some of our students.
Andrew, that's a good
Yeah.
point. I was just going to ask. That has to, because a lot of the nursing policies are more restrictive or stricter than the university. So if somebody looks at this in our course and says, oh, well, I'm in compliance, but nursing under that important school nursing, we should have that added in all the stuff from our handbook in all of the courses.
And really, I should look into getting that done for
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
So that by default, not only do we have the university policies, but we also have our nursing stuff up there. And maybe it's just we put the handbook,
Yeah.
just so it's another place for it.
Just to cover our ass, because
Right.
they're going to look at the university and say, well, it says I can miss this many classes or I can have this GPA or whatever. And we have stricter in a lot of different ways.
All right. No problem. I think that's a great idea.
Sorry, can we add there, Andrew?
Yes, you can add specifically whatever you want. By default, it's just the Widener University resources and policies. But if for some reason you have your own policy for class, or I know that we have clinical policies that are specific to clinical sites, things like that, those things can just be added by hitting the plus here and just choosing what it is. In this case, it would probably be a file, right? Because it's some kind of document, whether it's a PDF or a Word. So we would just upload that into file. We're clicking add file, and we're just telling Canvas what file we want to be there. So I'll pretend that the file I want the students to get here is my quiz guidelines. So now not only do I have my Widener University policy, but my quiz guidelines are right there for students when they need them as well. So you can personalize that. It's just by default, the Widener University is automatically there. And of course, I don't really need it there. So I'm just going to click on my 3 dots and hit remove. And that will get rid of it as well. And now that change I made is no longer there. So that's a beautiful thing. It's not very hard to go back on what we're doing. Are there any questions on that? I intend on spending more time in actually creating modules in our next Canvas session. Actually sitting down and how do we tie this together and how do they look? But I'm running out of time here today, and I have one more thing I want to show you, which is how to set up the actual percentages of the grades. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to go to that. Does anybody have any questions? All right, good. To set up your weight of your grades, like we talked about, discussions are worth 30%, quizzes are worth 20, finals worth 10. You just come in here into your assignments on the left-hand side. Okay, so your assignments are everything in class that gets a grade. So notice that even though I'm in the assignments window, I also have an assignments section. So assignments are part of assignments. Discussions are part of assignments. Quizzes are part of assignments. Homework is part of assignments. Participation is part of assignments. And you're saying, well, holy geez, I don't use homework. I don't use participation. That's perfectly fine. Click on your 3 dots on the left-hand side and delete it. Okay, if you don't like the term homework, you just call everything assignments, that's great. Just use that. You can use whatever naming criteria you have. Just know that these should be the same terms that you have listed on your syllabus in your grading criteria. If you call them assignments and you say assignments are worth 40%, this should say assignments. If you call them message boards are worth 30%, instead of this saying discussion, you should click on the 3 dots, hit edit, and change discussions to message boards. So that on the first one, Sally Ann doesn't come up to you and say, oh, well, it said that I had to complete a discussion. I didn't know a discussion meant message board. Well, Sally Ann, I don't know what else it would mean, but for naming sake and continuity across the board, change those terms. Or if you think now's a great opportunity to start calling it discussions instead of message boards, then go into your syllabus and change it from the message boards to discussions. It's really whatever preference you want, but I would encourage you to use the same terms that you are using inside of your class discussions, face-to-face or online, and certainly in your documentation that's handed out to the students in the form of a syllabus. So know that you can go in and take these away. You can always add something else by just doing plus group up here at the top. And maybe one of mine is journal reflections. So now not only do I have assignments, message boards, quizzes, homework, participation, exams, I also have journal reflections. Okay, so all of that can be put in there. Now, you can from here, if you want to, do plus and add journal reflection 1, journal reflection 2, journal reflection 3, right from this point. Or that stuff can be added as you're building the individual modules. That's going to be Canvas 3. That's next time. Let's look at how do we tell the gradebook how much my journal reflections are worth? How much are my exams worth? And how much are my message boards worth? For that, I just come to my 3 dots up here next to my yellow assignment button, and I click on Assignment Groups Weight. By default, Canvas thinks that everything is worth the same. So there are no weights assigned at the moment. You just need to check this box, and that gives you a list of everything that is appearing on that assignments menu. So I have assignments, message boards, quizzes, homework, participation, exam, journal reflections, and my total. So I got here and I said, oh, geez, I don't do message boards. I need that out of there. Just go back, hit delete on message boards, or let's do one that I don't want to delete. How about I don't do homework, because no one really calls it homework. So let's delete homework from my assignment groups. And now when I click on my 3 dots and my weight, I no longer have homework in this list. So whatever is on that first page is what is then given a group weight here as well. So obviously I want this to be able to add up to my 100 at the end. So there's my total. I have journal reflections worth 10, exam worth 10, participation 5, quizzes 25, message boards 20, assignments 30, and I save. Okay. Now you get a little pop-up over here on the right for a little reminder that your assignments are worth 30% of the total. Now, not only is that for you, but the student is seeing that as well, so that they know when they click on their assignments on their side of Canvas, everything that's listed under this heading is worth 30% of my grade. And everything that's listed under this heading is worth 20% of my grade. So I think that will certainly be helpful for them as they're trying to get a little bit better idea of big picture when it comes to the overall grade. Questions on assignment categories and weights? Man, we covered a lot. What a great hour.
This was better than even if we were at school trying to do this, because, you know, there would have been a million interruptions. And
Yeah.
I find doing this Zooming at home so much more effective. I'm serious.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I appreciate your time, Andrew. I like also that
Yeah.
you recorded it. I think that's a big, I
Yeah,
understand
absolutely.
like this.
Yeah. And I encourage you to go in, you know, and kind of mess around. Obviously, you're in old environments, right? You're in old spring and fall courses. So I don't want to say you can't mess anything up, because I mean, you could delete the entire course if you hit delete course button. I would think you would stay away from that button. There's really no reason.
I just deleted my course.
Yeah. So, but I mean, go in and mess around with it. That's the only way you're going to become comfortable with it. I think especially, I would like to do the next one, like I said, more focused on setting up the modules and the assignments. And I think that's where we're really going to get our bang for our buck. I'm going to ask people to bring a syllabus with them, or have a syllabus on their computer pulled up next to it, so we can literally build out like the first week of your course. Not me talking, me showing you how I would build the first week of my course, and then you sitting and building the first week with all of us in the room. And we can talk about that layout, and we can share our screen, and we can see how some of that looks, and even gather some ideas of, oh, wow, that looks like that might work really good in her class. Maybe I want to try that in mine. And I think we have those conversations all the time, but we're never inside of the other person's online environment. And rarely do we go inside of other people's teaching environments, unless, of course, you're filling out an observation for your merit packet. I mean, you're never popping your head in and, oh, I wonder what Sue's doing today. You know, so rarely do those, I mean, you guys have those conversations, but there's things that I'm sure are working very effective in all of your courses that can be put into other courses and can be spiraled and would be great for our students. So I want you to think of these collaborative opportunities that we have here in Canvas, and kind of these building opportunities as some of those instances where, hey, this worked really good for me. Or, you know what, I tried that and kids hated it, I hated it, it was way too stressful, don't do that.
So here's my question, Andrew. Like, I'm thinking, well, I'm working on my foundations course, which it's my course, no one else is in it. But Intro to Gero, I have 7, 8, 10, 12 sections, how many there's going to be. How correct is it for me to build this course, the Intro to Gero, in this environment? And then anyone that's assigned that section, they got to do it the way it was set up. I mean, it's sort of limiting their academic freedom of teaching it their way, but what do you think?
You know what? I think that's a conversation for the hierarchy, because I think it's a little bit different anywhere. For instance, I know that you know, if you're a new faculty member, that is a very daunting task. I would love to be a new faculty member and everything is built for me, because I'm coming in blind anyway. But if I've been teaching for 20, 25 years, I want to make it my own. And really, if I've been teaching for a couple of years, I want to make it my own. So I think as a course coordinator, that's a conversation to probably have with Rose and the new dean as to what that policy needs to be. If I say this is the way it is, then that's the way it is. I love continuity. And I think that, you know, especially with how high stakes our program is, I think that if everyone in each section of 125 was doing the same exact thing, that would be a marvelous thing.
I feel that way too, but when you're talking about,
yeah, exactly. There's things you want to make your own, but I think as far as the outcomes of the class and the objectives, sure, maybe my lesson's a little bit different, and maybe I teach APA different than you do, and you know, the way my simulation for Pop Health is different than your simulation of Pop Health, but the assignment is still there and the content is still there. So
Right.
even though the instruction is unique because it's your own instruction, you know, the learning is still present, whatever, you know, regardless of the objective, because the syllabus is the same, you know, across all that. We have to hit those objectives in every course.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have anything else for today?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
I really appreciate your time. I intend on getting this up, the video up on YouTube. So I will send a link out a little bit later. So be on the lookout for that, and certainly be on the lookout for our Canvas 3 training, which, like I said, will jump more into actually creating modules and making assignments, the meat and guts of the course. And I certainly hope you guys are finding these sessions useful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey,
I
Andrea,
hope no one loses power today or tomorrow.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Thank you.
Bye.
Can you throw up, can you put up session 1 when you send out session 2?
I would love to put up session 1, but it doesn't exist.
Oh. All right, I'll figure out how to do it myself.
But I will gladly, if
I
really,
think I'll be able to figure it out, don't you
I'm
think?
sure you can, but certainly doing the profile and stuff is pretty straightforward. But shoot me an email, and I mean, we're right down the hall from each other, so let me know and we can sit down and look at it too.
All right, be safe. Thank you.
Absolutely, no
Peace
problem.
and
See
love.
you.
Anna.